we need
I
this?
would prefer
The wearable.
I'm really poor at holding a microphone.
Yeah.
So how's this?
Yeah.
So I'm going to present to you a paper about the Porterian analysis of the Swedish modular housing industry. And this is done together with my colleague Jens Lennert. And just briefly, I come from a section for civil and architectural engineering in University of Southern Denmark. We have very much like Cecilia pitched this, the sustainability as a focus. And I have this prejudice that nobody knows us. That's why this and the second one as well. My research is mostly about digitalization of construction, but also what you broadly could call construction management. So this presentation is part of our recent grant from the Velux Foundation, where we have gotten 134 million euros to do a lift of the Danish construction research in 7 research fields. This contribution is part of Field 2, which is designed for regeneration, circularity, and longevity, and Field 4, digitalization and automation. The background of the paper is that the Swedish housing industry is suffering a very serious crisis these years. Roughly since 2018, the production of apartments and housing has plummeted, and that also includes the wood-based part of it. This implies certain predicaments. First of all, this manufacturing industry has been not only portrayed, but I would say actually also documented being able to produce off-site housing at a lower cost and a better quality. And this transition of the Swedish industry that we were expecting to see is now questioned. Second, this industry is actually playing quite an important social role in the society in providing low-cost multi-story housing for the Swedish social housing companies. The Swedish social housing companies is a very important sector in the Swedish housing portfolio. So this makes us ask, can this industry actually survive in this present crisis? We have an industry of 100 manufacturers around with 4 large players, Jerome, Lindbäcks, Moelven, and Sherwood, probably better known as Koch, which was for a long time owned by Skanska and also internationally promoted. And I use this hopeless abbreviation in the paper and in this presentation, SMWBI. So that's just that, right? That's what I mean by that. Right, so the framework of understanding is that we need to understand offsite production like this as an industry, not only as a technology or a method. And therefore I mobilize Porter's 5 forces framework was an analysis of how can you understand a competitive environment of a particular industry. It's a set of concepts which is rooted in industrial economics. And the references here. So the 5 elements of this argument is that an industry is potentially threatened by new entrants. It is constituted by the bargaining powers of buyers, the bargaining powers of suppliers, and it is also threatened by substitutes, and finally of internal rivalry. So the understanding Porter established is quite mature and has been exposed to quite a lot of criticism and development. In this paper, we have chosen simply to take 2 main points of this criticism. One is that, well, there's more to it than just simply competition. There's also a place for collaboration of various forms, sometimes called co-opetition. Secondly, we want to adopt a far more dynamic view. I mean, in a sense, we are forced to do that because of the things we want to analyze, the crisis in the industry. So therefore, we also take this one on board. This is potentially a very long discussion, which I have strongly abbreviated. So I'm happy to take that discussion if anyone wants to take issue with that I use Porter and I use it like this. The method has been a long-term observation. We have been following this industry for like more than 10 years from I started being employed in Sweden in 2012 and all the way to today. And it has been sometimes taken up in more detailed studies. And we did a study in 2023-24 where we looked more in detail on 25 manufacturers and carried out studies of their production, of their business models, and so on. And we did interviews with selected players, both of the industry and observers. So this is also a little bit a heavy abbreviation, but the main results is that we have seen this production growing for a long time between 1994 and 2015 roughly, and we have seen the establishment of large manufacturers. We are talking large corporations which choose to do this kind of modular production as a division in a larger organization, and therefore we here share both the corporate turnover and the factory turnover and the factory employees to show the embedding of actually large capitals. So the 5 forces analysis comes on the following 5 next slides, that we have seen entries from a number of places during the years in this industry. The woodworking industry is geographically and socially close by, so forestry, sawmills and timber production has expanded into this industry. Also, we've seen a number of examples of entries from abroad. I have mentioned some of them here: Polish, Estonian, Finnish, Norwegian, and Canadian companies. But there are also barriers for the threats. I mean, networks with customers, customers association, financial players' role in the process, and local workforce. Further enablers are the common production technology internationally. I would love to do a whole presentation about that alone. The parallels to what I've seen in the UK, what I've seen in other countries of how the production lines look, I mean, is pretty heavy. I mean, it's quite extensive parallels in how these productions are carried out. But I can nuance that, of course, if anyone is interested. So, in powers of buyers is a very important explanator here for the development of this industry. We have seen important customers organizing long-term volume purchases twice over this period, where they have done standard priced and documented sustainability and energy performance, and actually had outperformed the contemporary Swedish national legislation. This is a kind of a issue for thought, because it's not because they are very good at performing in sustainability, it's because the regulation is relatively lax. The power of suppliers is also important, but it's a bit non-transparent to us to see to what extent corporate internal trading of timber and other raw materials is actually important. The suppliers in the Swedish timber industry are an important international exporter, but they are different from many other companies in the hydropower reliance. So they are more independent of oil and gas, which has made them less vulnerable to recent energy crisis. But there's also the suppliers of machinery. I already mentioned that we see this commonality in Weinmann's concepts, in Randex and in Kuka and other suppliers. So the threats from substitutes is pretty clear. Anecdotally, when the Swedish LCA legislation became in place, you might have thought that the concrete part of the industry would be threatened. Not the case. They lived up to the demands quite easily. So you have seen certain parts of industry being more survivable than the wooden industry to a certain extent. So that's of course a very direct substitutional threat. The rivalry is in both between the builders. They believe in market competition, and you can see that they actually fight over the same possible customers and so on. But we also have a very important segment of villas in Sweden, where property developers are using districts of villas as a business model, and this is also creating rivalry. And finally, of course, with, as I already mentioned, the concrete and steel building. So again, I could use a lot more time on this. I mean, I would just want to highlight the point about the special education for the wood industry workers. The workers in this industry in Sweden are not craftsmen. I mean, you sometimes hear this narrative that what you do with offsite construction is that you take craftsmen from the building sites and you put them on the roof, and then we're good. What we see here is a common effort from the industry to create education, short-term training, which is fitted for the demands of being in the production line and to carrying out the various tasks. And it's that kind of work. And this is, for me, a class example of something that breaks the industry competition, as Porter would believe that would be the only force in play. Okay. I think this analysis has shown some weaknesses in the industry. It's strong to say that it's easy to enter the industry, but it is possible, and it's been seen a number of times. We've seen large players. Any Canadians in the audience? Anyway, Canfor, which is a very large Canadian company, they chose to enter this industry recently as well, the Swedish industry. So that's just a recent example. So it's vulnerable also to macroeconomic fluctuations. It's been very clear the last years, and the presence and closeness of the timber resources and the capabilities and competences that involve means that I definitely think that this industry would at least prevail. Right. So our question was, can the industry survive the present crisis? And we used Porter and post-Porter concepts for that. We did this desk study. We found a number of weaknesses in the industry, it has shown to be vulnerable. There might be more examples of companies that go under. I didn't mention that, but of the 4 leading companies, actually Skanska sold off Koch. Lindbeck had to close down half of their production facilities. Moelven reduced their number of employees. De Rome did the same. So across these companies, we've seen very clear crisis signals. And this means that it becomes dubious whether the Swedish industry can really be an important European asset in the present European effort to develop affordable housing. There is an ongoing policy development where modern manufacturing method, modern construction manufacturing, hang on, I forgot the abbreviation, MMC. The MMC trend is now pitched as the way that the European Union should solve the problems about affordable housings. Our point here is that the Swedish industry is not ready for that. It won't be. It would need to make reverse innovation, which would adapt to foreign markets far more rigorously. And I'm also trying to say here that technology, the offsite technology, is not enough. There need to be a triangular partnership between clients, the state, and the industry in a much closer collaboration to realize the future further development of affordable housing. Thank you for your attention.